Let's talk about some new ideas for Charity Water's next 15 years. Today, I'll introduce myself, share my opinion on why I believe Charity Water should care about Web 3.0 and NFTs, and then I'll share 2 ways we can immediately start today. My goal is to inspire both Ben and Anthony to want to continue the conversation so we can loop in Scott and anyone else so we can talk about next steps. Here's a bit about me in 3 minutes. I've got some pretty ambitious goals. Since I came across this spring in 2016, I've made it a personal mission to help Charity Water solve the global water crisis in our lifetime. I also want to help destigmatize conversations around mental and emotional health in society. The last walk for water is something no 13-year-old girl should ever consider in their lives, and unfortunately, it's still happening around the world every single day. This also hits home for me because I personally have family members and friends that I know are struggling. Destigmatizing those conversations in society has become very important to me. Finally, I want to help reinvent society's lifeless, uninspiring, and broken charity matching programs. In 2009, I graduated high school and our class did a time capsule project. The question for number 10, circled in red, is, where do you think you'll be in 10 years if you had to guess? And my 18-year-old response was, somewhere warm but traveling the United States or world, talking to kids and groups of people about something like H2O for life. In hindsight, I remember seeing a documentary in one of my classes senior year about the global water crisis, and it obviously inspired me enough to write it down as my answer. At the time, I had never heard of Charity Water, and I wouldn't until I came across the spring in 2016. When I came across this time capsule project again in an old box in my closet in 2019 while I was cleaning out my old room, I could not believe it because in 2018, the year before, I helped Scott promote his book, Thirst. I was one of a handful of Charity Water advocates chosen to read the uncorrected proof before it became available to the rest of the public. I was also the first reader to review Thirst on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Goodreads. I did a 24-hour giveaway where I bought Thirst for any of my friends and family members who wanted the book. Here are a handful of the responses that I received. As you can see, Scott loved it, and so did a bunch of my family and friends. Here are some additional pictures, and a few more too. Then, in 2019, I met Scott, Cubby, Tyler, Carly, and a few other Charity Water rock stars at your old headquarters in New York. This was 10 years after my senior year of high school and our time capsule project. The power of writing things down is incredible, and I believe I manifested this into existence. As you can tell by now, I've been a Charity Water advocate for years and will be for the rest of my life. But for me, it's not enough. I want and need to do more. To me, Charity Water represents more than solving the global water crisis, which I definitely want to be a part of as we eventually help hundreds of millions of people get access to clean water. But Charity Water has also embraced disruption and innovation in unprecedented ways by reinventing charity and the nonprofit business model with programs like the well, the spring, the pool, creating the first ever remote water sensors, and recently creating the Bitcoin Trust, just to name a few of those innovations. Additionally, Charity Water has made charity better in society for everyone by pioneering the birthday fundraiser campaigns and concept and movement that's happened throughout society. Tens of thousands of other charities like Pencils of Promise and Save the Children have followed Charity Water's lead. You guys have also embraced radical transparency, instilling unparalleled levels of trust in your donors while also inspiring other nonprofit leaders to think about how they're telling their stories so that people and donors actually care. So for Charity Water's next 15 years, how will we continue to disrupt and innovate? How are we going to make charity in society better for everyone? And finally, how are we going to leverage and utilize Web 3.0 and NFT technologies to accomplish our mission sooner than we otherwise would in our lifetime? Personally, I'm excited about the potential of the tokenization, gamification, and decentralization aspects of Web 3.0 and NFTs. So why NFTs and why now? Because early adopters can associate their brands with the next wave of digital innovation that is happening right before our eyes. Now, there are three main reasons brands and businesses are exploring digital currencies and NFTs. And those three reasons are for marketing and earned media purposes, for profit, and for community building and utility benefits. Here are a few examples of notable brands and even well members like Gary Vee that have utilized and embraced NFTs for different reasons. And I believe when we change the word profit to donation, all three of these reasons are reasons for Charity Water to seriously consider entering the NFT space. What I believe we need to continue asking ourselves is, how do charities continue to connect with donors in a future where donations are increasingly made with cryptocurrencies, in a Web 3.0 environment and atmosphere, with NFTs, and in these new infinite virtual spaces? And I believe Charity Water has a massive opportunity, and I've outlined how we can start today. I'm going to share Opportunity 1, Missions Every Day, and there will be another video that showcases Opportunity 2, which is story giving. So for Missions Every Day, think Omaze, or even the All-In Challenge that provided food to those in need during the coronavirus crisis, but as NFTs. At the end of 2020, Gary auctioned off his time and helped raise over $200,000 for Pencils of Promise, another charity that's very close to Gary's heart. Gary also created 2 NFT projects, one of them being VeeFriends. In an interview he had in December, Gary made headlines by saying how his project had made $91 million in 90 days, and that he didn't even know what an NFT was 9 months prior. We're not going to watch the video of Gary introducing VeeFriends now, but it's really good. Some of the NFTs Gary created and sold as a part of his project give fans special access to him. Buy the FaceTime Frog, and you get to FaceTime Gary. Purchase the Garage Sailin' Yale, and go find some killer deals with mugs with Mr. Garage Sailman himself. Do you have a podcast? Invest in the Podcast Panther, and Gary will be one of your guests. Love the New York Knicks? The Courtside Cat is for you. The list goes on and on. Chris from Maryland won lunch and a year of mentorship from Gary by supporting Pencils of Promise through Omaze back in 2020. By supporting a charity close to Gary's heart, Chris won this unforgettable experience. But that was it. Literally just last week on February 17th, Gary had a bunch of his 5-minute FaceTimes with different VeeFriends FaceTime Frogs NFT token holders. And just last week, someone offered a FaceTime Frog token holder more than $32,000 for their NFT on OpenSea, a secondary market to buy and sell NFTs. Now, to be clear, the FaceTime Frog and that $32,000 comes with the NFT as a resellable asset, 3 individual VCon NFT tickets, and 1 5-minute FaceTime with Gary once a year for 3 years. So think of Missions Every Day as if Omaze and VeeFriends had a baby as NFTs. Now, the key differences with Omaze and Missions Every Day, besides the NFT, is that there are 15 winners, so 15 different experiences, and 100% of the proceeds will go directly to the charity each influencer chooses for their mission. Does that make sense so far? I'll pause here for a minute and see if there are any questions. Okay, even though nothing was said, you might be thinking it, and it's totally relevant. Why should Charity Water care? And that's because there's a part 2 to this project inspired by Gary's other NFT project called Book Games. In August 2021, I pre-ordered 24 copies of Gary's new book called 12 and a Half. And in return, I was gifted those 2 NFTs. I own those 2 digital images. They're mine. And I wasn't the only one. Gary's only one of a handful of people to ever sell over 1 million books in a 24-hour period. And it's because he bartered and promised 1 free NFT for every 12 books purchased. Gary has designed book games to be played forever, and it's been exciting to be a part of so far. So, Charity Water cares because part 2 of Missions Every Day is bartering with the influencers after we provide value to each of them, their charities, and their personal brands. They'll just have to support Charity Water, Pencils of Promise, and Vayner NFT. Because when we mint the 15 NFTs, where 100% of those proceeds go to that influencer's charity of choice, we're actually going to mint 20 NFTs. We're going to keep 25% of the supply, 1 for each experience. And those 5 NFTs will be special, gold labeled, and will only be available for each influencer for an automatic airdrop if they support Vayner NFT, Charity Water, and Pencils of Promise. For $10,000, they'll be recognized as an ambassador. For $20,000, they'll be recognized as an official partner. For $50,000, they'll be recognized as a local legend. For $100,000, they'll be recognized as a global giver. And for $200,000, they'll be recognized as a Hall of Famer. Charity Water, Pencils of Promise, and Vayner NFT will each get 33% of the proceeds for part 2 of Missions Every Day. One example is that for contributing $50,000 and being recognized as a local legend, that influencer will now get to invite a new influencer to this exceedingly exclusive Missions Everyday community the following year to be a part of the next 5,000 days as we continue to build this community over the next 15 plus years. Plus, they'll be getting at least 3 NFTs at that local legend level, which can be resold if they want to. Now, I believe I'm actually undervaluing the exclusivity of this community, especially when you look at what other influencers are paying for other types of NFTs. And for what we've seen Gary build within the last 9 months when it comes to VeeFriends and book games, $91 million in 90 days is no joke. But as it stands now, the numbers I just shared, the Missions Everyday community should drive in over $300 million for Charity Water, Pencils of Promise, and Vayner NFT respectively over the next 15 plus years. I said it earlier. What I continue asking myself every day is how do charities continue to connect with donors in a future where donations are increasingly made with cryptocurrencies in a Web 3.0 atmosphere and environment, with NFTs and in these infinite virtual spaces. And I believe by making charity better for passionate donors and the entire nonprofit community as a whole, there's an opportunity for Charity Water to actually accomplish its mission sooner than it otherwise would. I'm going to pause again to see if this makes sense and if there are any questions. Keep going? Awesome. So let's create a market, just like Gary did for VeeFriends and book games, by understanding basic economics and supply and demand. Missions Every Day is an exclusive and invite-only community for 365 new influencers to join each year. According to Google, there are over 500,000 active influencers on Instagram and millions of influencers across all the social platforms combined. So it should naturally create a serious demand. When Team Empathy and Team Kindness draft their teams for 2023, Gary and Scott could be Team Empathy, and AJ and Adam could be Team Kindness. I designed this project to help Charity Water and Pencils of Promise raise millions of dollars for their respective charities and missions, and because for a while I've wanted to work with Gary and Vayner, so I thought providing value to Vayner NFT as our NFT partner would provide value to all 3 organizations and all the different business leaders. Here are a couple more rules and restrictions that I've designed. In addition to this being an invite-only community, those invited must be recognized as influencers via social media. Then each year, 365 different charities will be chosen by the different influencers. It's first come, first serve. And Gary, Scott, Ellen, and Oprah are examples to showcase that here. Once a charity is tweeted by an influencer that's been invited, then that charity is no longer available to be chosen by other influencers that year. Here are some rules for draft day. For the odd rounds, the teams will pick women, and for the even rounds, they'll pick men. So it's split down the middle, 50-50. In a thoughtful effort to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, I also want to make it a priority to make sure the influencers chosen range across race, ethnicities, sexual orientation, professions, industries, and even countries. The teams in this draft will consist of various types of influencers, including athletes, celebrities, actors and actresses, singers, rappers, DJs, comedians, journalists, business leaders, entrepreneurs, astronauts, chefs, TV hosts, models, internet personalities, reality TV stars, artists, writers, activists, politicians, and even world leaders. Once an influencer tweets us a charity they'd like to support, we'll make and mint a one-of-one NFT that will be gifted to each influencer before we make and mint the other 15 NFTs that the public will be able to purchase for those once-in-a-lifetime type experiences exchanged by supporting each influencer's desired charity. What will change with each Missions Everyday NFT will be the caricature or features for each influencer that's invited to join the community to make sure it resembles them, their personal brand, their characteristics, and their attributes, with Snoop Dogg as the example here for the NFT avatars he created that resemble him. Finally, we'll create a collage of the original 365 NFTs that we're going to gift to each influencer for making our world a better place, mirroring what Beeple did for his first 5,000 days project that ultimately sold for $69 million. But this time, with 100% of the proceeds of this sale for this NFT going directly to charity. The example of Gary's NFT for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is one of the 365 pieces for the collage that will be a part of this one-of-a-kind NFT that will help fund thousands of water projects around the world. So I know that's a lot of information, so I'll pause again to answer any questions.